Hey everyone, welcome to the People and Perks podcast, where each week we sit down with an employee benefits vendor to give you insights into the best benefits on the market so you can make better decisions for your people. I'm Sean, the founder of Perkwise, the UK's first employee benefits discovery and engagement platform.
And I'm Adam, a consultant here at Wingate Benefit Solutions. And we're very pleased to be joined by Steph from HEKA. Steph, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm Steph. I'm one of the founders of HEKA. We do employee benefits, really personalised to each employee.
And I guess like you guys have been around what for 6 or so years now, is that right, roughly?
Yeah, our sixth birthday is coming up. Exciting times. Feel very, it makes me either feel old or young. I'm not sure which one. So it's a long time, but a lot has happened in those 6 years.
So is HEKA your first baby, or was there?
Excluding dog, yes, but there has been two babies since HEKA, real human babies in this.
And so I guess like before we get into what we're going to chat about today, what made you want to start HEKA? Like how did that come about?
Yeah, I think I where I previously worked and where my husband, who is also my co-founder, worked, we worked at the same place, and the benefits that we had there, they just did not support real life scenarios of what people were going through. You know, you had people coming in where they were struggling, going through a divorce, or they were trying to lose weight, or get fit, or someone had just had a cancer diagnosis or struggling with fertility, and the benefits I could point them towards almost felt like shameful. They weren't going to do anything. And actually, from a company perspective, you could see the impact that that was having on productivity, on what it was having in terms of retention in sickness days. And actually, I thought if you kind of do the maths here, if we had better benefits in place that put a safety net under everyone, so that kind of whatever life threw at them, they had something to fall back on, then actually we'd be able to reduce all of those or improve, productivity and presenteeism, that side of it. And yeah, that's why we thought, okay, we can actually do something about this.
And I guess that's a perfect segue to what we're going to be talking about today. So, one workforce, thousands of needs, why personalisation is the future of employee well-being. From my side, like, over the past, I don't know, 10, 5 years, even in the last few years, we're seeing the employee benefits market going to this model of we want our employees to choose what their benefits are. I think, going back a little bit and still now, some companies offer flexible benefits. I would say they tend to be fairly rigid, fairly insurance focused, and engagement seems to not be that good. People might use it once a year. You might get 5 or 10% of your workforce actually changing something, and then not actually impacting some of those stats. You've touched on it a little bit already, but like, what have you been seeing? So in the 6 years you've been doing so far, like how have you seen the market change?
I think certainly during COVID times that a lot of HR and benefit teams understandably had a very knee-jerk reaction. We've all just been thrown into a situation that nobody's been through before, and what support now do we have that we can offer instantly? And what happened then is that companies added more standalone benefits to the long list of benefits they already had in place. And so if you think, you go back to the 1980s, which ironically I wasn't actually alive for, but I'm sure it was a much simpler time because you might have had pensions and that was what your benefits were. You fast forward to the 2020s and you might have a long list of 30, 40, even 50 standalone benefits. And actually, it's really, really challenging for employees to actually be able to find the benefits they want when they want them, because they might be housed on an intranet or a PDF document, or like you said, like flex benefit platforms. But even then, things like virtual GP, flu vouchers, EAPs, they all get lost. And you obviously said the word personalisation, and in terms of where I've really seen the market going, it is towards that. It's toward how can we simplify the benefits that we have? How can we condense them down so we don't have so many kind of standalone contracts in place? And actually, how can we personalize this to each employee? Because that's ultimately what employees and people expect now. You see it in Netflix, in Amazon, Pinterest. Everything is adapted to you to provide the smoothest user journey to get the highest engagement. And if we can do that with benefits like HEKA is, then the engagement we see is 93%. That is completely unheard of in terms of the benefit space. And I think in terms of the numbers that are coming from that, and how in the 6 years since HEKA kind of was created, in the past 12, 18 months, I think the market has really come to HEKA, especially, I mean, the start of this year, we're nearly looking to hit 50% of our ARR target in the first quarter. It's just absolutely makes sense for what companies want now. They want more from their benefits, but more by doing less and simplifying what they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I would say that like the big buzzword for the last few years has been engagement, hasn't it? Like I think a lot of businesses are now looking at the benefits they offer and say, well, what engagement are we getting on this benefit? Like, are we actually seeing return on investment? And when you look at things like, I don't know, EAPs, cash plans, um, employers want them to use them, want employees to use them, sorry, so that they get that return on investment of what these products is designed to do and get support for their employees. But engagement is always really, really poor because either, like you say, people aren't sure of what they've got, how to access it, or they might just, not want to use that type of service because it doesn't feel personal to them. It feels like something that they might have to volunteer up information for and all that sort of stuff. So engagement's been like the big thing that people have been focusing on, and like how do you get to those numbers? Like you talk about 93%, I think you said. Like how with an organization are you getting them to that level, would you say?
I think in part it's transparency. I mean, you say that it's kind of hard to track and understand engagement. That's if you can actually find it out from your existing benefit providers. There are so many benefit providers out there who are deliberately vague about what actually engagement means. For us, that 93% is 93% of employees make a booking on HEKA each month. And in terms of engagement, that is just through the roof. You could have other people who might be saying, okay, we have I'm not naming any names, but we have a 5% engagement. And that just means that somebody comes onto their flex benefit platform once a year and they are counted as being engaged. But for us, we have nothing to hide. We have a complete, behavioral data dashboard that companies can come into at any point and understand not what their employees are saying that they're going to do, but actually what their employees are doing and how much they are using the service. You wouldn't be able to see on an individual level, Steph has booked a fertility testing kit, for example, but you would be able to see as a collective how many of your employees have engaged in preventative health support. And that's one angle that if you think about premiums and how much they're increasing around private medical insurance, around cash plans, that actually if you can put something like HEKA in place that offers that personalised preventative support, then those premiums are going to come down, hopefully, or at least they're not going to increase as much as they would have. And you can actually get to a situation that this is almost paying for itself in getting ahead, because you're either going to be paying for this reactively in terms of sick days increasing, retention, or you can pay for it proactively and actually get the support and this safety net that we like to talk about in place.
Thanks, Steph. Just going back to what you mentioned before around companies who have benefits today, employees are not really engaging with what's currently available. Do you put that down to a communication issue from HR teams, or is it more down to like they actually aren't serving the needs of the employees that are at the company that they have?
I think it's multi-threaded. I think HR teams are so busy and tend to be really undervalued in a company. And I think that they constantly get pulled off on different firefighting issues, obviously because of the nature of what they do. And so something like benefits always kind of falls down the to-do list, even if they have got all of the best intentions in the world. So we very much say that it shouldn't be on HR to communicate your benefits. We work with some fantastic companies, and the biggest spread of how HEKA evolves at those companies is by word of mouth. We might go from, on launch day, 47% of the company opt in. Within 3 months, our average opt-in rate is 89%. And that's 89% of employees opting in to do a voluntary benefit. And I think that communication, because it is personalized to each employee, because you're coming in and you're feeding your preferences into HEKA and kind of shaping it to what you care about, you are ultimately more engaged with what you're going to be seeing. I think the other side of it is that even if employees wanted to find the benefits that they have, that it's really hard for them to do that. And you don't always connect the dots yourself. So if I was a 55-year-old woman and I was struggling with a headache, I can come into HEKA and I can search headache and it will flag and say, this is your existing virtual GP number. You haven't used your iVoucher in 15 months. Maybe you're due an updated prescription. Oh, and you are also of the age and gender that this might be menopause. So here is the support that you have access through your existing benefits and through HEKA. And also you can access this, if it is menopause, that's classed as a major life event, and you can access 6 free counselling sessions through your EAP as an example. I, as a 55-year-old woman, probably wouldn't go through and find all of those different benefits from my PDF that I got when I first joined the company, or my intranet, or maybe what's on the Flex Benefit platform, and so the utilisation is really low. Something like Virtual GP, you put it onto HEKA, and after 6 months, the usage of that Virtual GP has gone up by 43%. You aren't paying anything more. It's just putting it front and centre where employees need it.
I think that's one of the other key trends obviously now is like these multi-generational workforces. I don't think we've ever had so many generations in the workforce at the same time. So that throws up a host of different issues like that you just mentioned for employers, where you'd have to kind of have different solutions to all different types of employees and what their issues would be. I guess this is a good time to kind of go a bit more into the HEKA platform and how it's different to, I mean, you've mentioned a lot before, but like how it's different to other like flexible benefits platforms.
Yeah, I think first of all, I would say if we weren't on a podcast now, but we were on a webinar, this is the point at which I would pull up and be like, here is our amazing generational report, where we do exactly what you've just said there, where we
Wow.
break down and show you this is how different generations and what they actually do and engage with when you give them the spectrum. Because of course, if you've got a 20-year-old who's just entered the workforce, the benefits they want and need are going to be different than a 30-year-old or a 60-year-old. And it also has to be shaped and based on where you are and how it adapts to you there. So all of those factors have to come in when we're kind of considering our personalised benefits. But of course, yeah, I can almost start from the top. And I think in answer to your question, how is HEKA different to a traditional flex benefit platform? I think the first thing is that we aren't actually a flex benefit platform. And almost it's ironic that we don't have the word kind of flexible, in our title, because HEKA is much more flexible than any kind of legacy setup that a company might have. So how HEKA tends to work is that a company would give their employees access to HEKA, and then they would set an allowance that those employees can receive. So that might be £40 per person per month. It could be £200 per person per year. So the company is in control of how much and how frequently they give those employees that allowance. And then those employees can then come into HEKA, personalize their account to everything that they're interested in, and then use that allowance on what matters most to them. There are about 25,000 experiences on HEKA. So when I said that safety net, I really meant it. If somebody is going through divorce, they can access the support through that. But that would even be paired off to, are you going through divorce and you want specifically help around financial advice or emotional support, or have you got children involved? And that's like the nuances of what we're talking about here. And it would be the same for, we would cover menopause or fertility, learning and development, finance, coaching, hobbies, learning a new language, getting time offline, even alcohol and kind of consumption reduction. There are so many different angles of support that we have on HEKA, including cash plans, dental plans, and on all of the things that you'd expect. Basically, anything that is a non-core benefit that would help improve an employee's health, then we have it on HEKA.
What's when you sorry when you mentioned the 25,000, what does that entail? Like what like is that blog articles? Is it like benefits themselves? Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. No, it's not just blog articles or anything like that. Like it would be if you wanted nutritional support, then you could access a food intolerance test. You could access meal kits delivered to
Oh
your
wow.
home. You could access cooking workshops. One's coming on that's run by Jamie Oliver, which I'm just so excited about. In terms of therapy, you could choose whether you wanted a life coach or hypnotherapy, or we partner with people like BetterHelp. And again, to give people that breadth of choice, and that would be the same if it was neurodiversity. You can access a free 30-minute consultation, but then you can go on and purchase a full actual diagnostic. Or you could access just specifically neurodiversity related support. So things like fidget toys, or there's specific fitness classes that you can do that is focused on that, or loop earplugs to help you kind of with your focus and productivity. It's really, these aren't just articles that kind of give you token advice, but it's actual specific experiences, either in person, virtual, or delivered to your home, that you can purchase from that allowance that your company has given you. And of course, you can supplement it. So if something is £40 and I've got £30, then I can just pay that £10 difference as an employee.
How do you help employees with choice then? So obviously you've got a vast amount of choice. How do you you mentioned it already to a degree around like if I've got a headache, I can go on and say I've got a headache, and you'll see what's available to you. But so if I'm the first time logging onto the platform, I've got my allowance. How do I find the stuff that is relevant to me, or is it already suggested based on what you know?
Yeah, so when you first create your account, you'll share your preferences to give HEKA a little bit of this is what I'm interested in. So I might say, I'm interested in swimming, or reducing the amount of time I spend online, or family activities. And somebody else might choose, a different set of. I think there's quite a few different kind of categories and preferences and everything that they can choose. But then HEKA would learn over time based on what you're searching and based on what you're kind of interacting with, what you're interested in. And employees also put a health focus. And it's quite fun because 7 out of 10 employees within 6 months achieve that health focus. So some of the most popular health focuses are like losing weight, or sleeping better, or eating better. Around this time last year, I put my health focus as run the London Marathon, which I did in April 2025. And the recommendations that were coming on my own HEKA account were, you could do this run through race. Here's a therabody massage gun to help you with recovery, or my protein powder to help with your supplements, or stretch classes. Or like we partner with Runner as the running kind of AI app. And they were all of the suggestions that were coming through to me based on what I'd inputted in. Somebody else, it might be start a family, or save my first home, or I've got health scare concerns. And it'll be like, okay, well, you can do a full body Bupa, health and cancer screening, or you could just do specifically bowel cancer, for example, and have an at-home testing blood kit that you can do to test that. So the breadth of choice is there so that the personalisation is really spot on.
That's great. And in terms of then, like for on the flip side of what you've said, then, so for the employer, so I've got all my employees using HEKA. They're setting like health goals and getting all these personalised recommendations and stuff. What does the employer get? Like, do they get insights into, I guess, what are the goals within the workforce, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, exactly that. So they have a dashboard through which they can see the behavioural data collectively as a company to see what it is that people are engaging most in, what they're booking in. They can then break that down by gender, by generation, to really kind of get a picture of maybe what areas might be struggling more. And they can also filter it. So for example, you might be planning in terms of like a risk side for certain elements, but you can look at the data of what people are actually doing and saying, actually, this is more or less based on employees' actual behaviour. And then they can see, in terms of engagement stats, what percentage of people have been using their allowance and that side of it. And then through their dashboard, they can also use that section to do any kind of reward and recognition spend. So a lot of companies give, it's your work anniversary or birthday or major life event. You've just got married or had a baby, and you can upload and send a message and send a certain amount of allowance to employees for those occasions, which is useful. As you scale, you don't want to assume everybody wants a bottle of champagne for their birthday. That might be nice. For HEKA, you can put on that £20-30 and the employee can choose it on something meaningful for their own health.
That's awesome. And I guess then the so what behind it all then, like for these employers who might be considering like, okay, we already provide a wellbeing allowance, and maybe we give our staff, they can claim it back or something like that. What do you think HEKA does in terms of like that return on investment from, once people are using the platform, they're engaged, they're on this journey, what does that then mean for the business?
I think if at the moment you already have a manual allowance in place where you are giving, say, £30 a month for a gym subsidy or wellbeing, or you're doing £100 a quarter for learning and development, or you are setting and specifying people have £500 to spend on a health assessment a year, or you're, lots of different options like that, then putting that spend on HEKA gives employees ultimately the breadth of choice, rather than you as a company saying this is what you should spend it on, which is always going to have a lower uptake. And because you're giving the employees the choice, and because HEKA is only focused on health experiences that are ultimately going to improve the productivity of your employees, that return of the investment is going to be much higher because employees are going to be engaged with it. And I think because of our model that we tend to do this on a monthly allowance, you have that draw of employees coming back to the HEKA platform at least once a month to really engage with the allowance that they have received. So you can use that platform to promote certain other elements of your existing benefits or messages that you want to convey that actually would get lost elsewhere. And just coming back to our earlier point around like this pressure on HR and that them being the ones that have to do this communication, that's all built within HEKA and it's personalised. You would need hundreds of HR employees to be able to do the level of personalisation that our AI tech, does for you. And so I really think, especially if you've already got this allowance in place, it will be way, way easier for employees and companies to manage putting it on HEKA. And if you don't already have the allowance in place, you can certainly probably repurpose it from somewhere else. And especially looking at like those preventative numbers we've slightly touched on, that this makes sense from a reactive versus proactive spend. You're just getting ahead of an issue.
I love that. It's almost like when you were talking about like the level of personalization, it's almost as if like everyone has their own kind of like personal life coach or like personal trainer like in their pocket, basically, that's kind of like customized to exactly their needs. Yeah, I think that's awesome, and that level of personalization is so good. And then obviously with the power of AI on top of that to kind of like help employees, like I think this is, I mean, yeah, I kind of want my own little HEKA personalization right at the
We
moment.
do it for you, Sean. No worries.
I was looking through on your website, and what's really striking to me is you have so many like numbers on like ROI and like and stats, and like I think it's really important, especially going to your earlier point around transparency in the market, that like you're able to show 4.x ROI or benefits, 94% engagement rate. One of the ones that really stood out to me was 46% of HEKA bookings prevent sick days. And I think talking around before as well around preventative health, can you expand a bit more on that and how that's happening?
I mean, if you think of all of the reasons of why an employee might go off sick, and actually if they had something preventative in place before they got to that point, and even like the virtual GP, putting that front and center of being able to access that number, being able to access the services that you already have, those existing benefits that get lost at the moment, that preventative side is so powerful, because people are going to have to go off sick. I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old. Sometimes they bring back all sorts of germs from school. But something like flu vouchers, for example, they get so underutilized because the messaging, the communication is reliant on HR eventually having to send it out and actually people engaging with those flu vouchers. From August, that can be signposted on your HEKA account so that people make the most of flu vouchers that they've already got in place. So again, not going to prevent everything, but actually, if we can get ahead of it, if we can get them using their virtual GP number, we can get things like flu vouchers through HEKA itself. You can book all sorts of physio and recovery and medicinal support to get ahead of these issues. And I think that number around reducing sick days, this is something we've had to be really conscious of as we've grown and over the last 6 years, that benefits in general, but specifically anything that would fall under well-being or health. If you are having a conversation with a CFO who is signing off the budget on this, they do not want it to feel like a fluffy, nice to have benefit. This needs to be something that is going to deliver clear return on investment for that company, because we aren't selling a C to B product. This is ultimately B2B, and it is a company funded majority, and they need to be able to build the business case around that, and that's very much what we help companies to do. So if anybody's listening to this and thinking there is no way that we're going to be able to get that sign off, I can trust me that you're in really good company. There are so many fantastic companies, from asset management to the top law firms to the biggest energy company in the world, all using HEKA. And I think that part of that is what maybe in the last kind of 12 to 18 months has really helped our growth to kind of grow, I guess, for want of a better word, because that word of mouth piece really does the hard work for us.
And I think it comes back to like the simplicity, doesn't it? Because like you said right at the start, lots of businesses over the last 5 years or so have just been plugging more benefits in. If you look at the traditional startup journey, you get your funding, you get bigger, you get employees, you think, oh, right, we need benefits. Then you go out and you buy loads of stuff and you layer it on, you put it on your SharePoint site or whatever it is. And then over time, that benefits package gets a little bit smaller and a little bit stuff's not being used. Like, we've got all this stuff, people don't know what it is. What do we do about it? How do we communicate it? And HEKA, I think that the real value comes in that, not to come in and replace everything, but you can, HR teams could look at stripping out a lot of stuff because you guys provide it in the platform, and people can choose if they want to carry on using that stuff or spend it on something that might be a bit more relevant to them if their needs change as well. So I think that's the real big one.
It doesn't have to be a strip out and start again. We can house any existing benefits that you already have, and it can almost be like a gradual fade out, but very much where the market is going, and talking on terms of like the future here, is that companies and the benefit space in general need simplicity. We need to condense what we have in place, and that personalisation powered by AI is just going to be so crucial in how we do that. So how very much I see it, but I guess I am biased, is that you have your core benefits and you have HEKA. And you don't need anything else, because HEKA will cover absolutely every other eventuality outside of those core benefits. And that's what employees need. They don't need noise. They just need to be able to get what they want when they want it. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, love it. And I guess like on that point then, so I would say like your market leaders in this space, right? This personalization, like using AI to that real advantage, giving the employees that choice. I guess 2 questions. Where are you going? Like, what's next for HEKA? Like, what do you see? Where do you see the business in 5 years? And then I guess secondly, what about the market? Because whilst you might be one of the first, you're not going to be the last. There's going to be others who are going to be coming in and trying to go down this personalization route. Where do you see the market heading in the next 5-10 years or so?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. I think in terms of where the market is heading towards that simplification. And that is ultimately where we need to get to, because there's just so much noise and distraction there. In terms of HEKA, I guess, yes, we do have the first mover advantage, but the network we've built, those 25,000 experiences, we haven't just written them on. We have direct integrations with those companies. There are contracts in place. I would challenge anyone, and they have. I'm being completely honest here, that people have come and said, well, okay, well, let us acquire you, or we'll copy what you do. And I wish them good luck, because it has taken us 5 or 6 years to create this network of highly the top end, Bupa, National Trust, all of the big names that you would want to see as an employee coming onto HEKA to get the support that you want. They are embedded and contracted in place with HEKA. Then you have the technology and the side of what we've built there. And yes, we have the first mover advantage, but it's really strong. And our tech team and their history and the benefits, they've been in benefits for decades. So they really know the space. Plus our actual business model. And that's probably one for another time to kind of go into, but it is really robust, and it's really sought after. And I think where I and my co-founder see it going is that we're really excited for the next kind of 5 years. We've hit profitability. We haven't gone down the usual route of what companies have done in terms of raising round and round after funding. I think maybe we've done since before COVID, we've maybe raised about £1 million, so not much in the scheme of things. And so, for us, that profitability, it frees up a lot of how we can continue to grow and shape where we want to go as a business. And probably the final point there is we're not for sale. We're not up for acquisition. We want to continue riding this wave that is absolutely shattering. I'm glad this is a podcast and not a webinar, because between 2 small children and running HEKA, it is a busy old time. But it's really positive. It's really strong. And I mean, you said it, Adam, we're market leaders, and that is something that feels really fantastic to be able to say that you've created something that is really blazing the path for what the future benefits will be.
Awesome. I mean, you've kind of touched on my last question a little bit already, but if there's one thing you wanted a HR leader to take away from listening to this, what would that one thing be?
I think it's that you can do it. And I know that sounds almost a bit cheesy, but I think it can feel really daunting thinking about changing what you have in place. You're worried about what employees might think. You're worried what the costs might be. You're worried about what the time drain might be for yourself. But HEKA is really simple. And we have worked with so many companies now that we're so great at building this business case that we can help you find that budget. We can help you repurpose that budget and put it to the best use, so that you're stopping wasting spend and you're getting that real return on investment that you need from your benefits.
Love it. Thank you. Thanks so much, Steph. That was
Thank you very
it
much.
was awesome. Best of luck, and we'll definitely be excited to follow the growth of HEKA.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No worries. And I guess for anybody listening, if you want to learn more about HEKA, feel free to reach out to Steph, go onto the Perkwise site, see what else is out there. Or if you need advice, please come and talk to us at Wingate Benefit Solutions. But again, Steph, it's been awesome to have you on. We really appreciate it. What you've built is awesome, and we're excited to see what's next for you. But thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.